Hey everyone, and welcome to the NintendoFuse Podcast. This is episode 269, recorded on April 10th, 2023. And we're here to talk all about the new Super Mario Brothers movie that just released last week. We're going to talk a little about the Tetris movie that also dropped on Apple TV and all the different news and rumors that's come out over the last couple weeks. My name is Steve, and I'm so glad to be here to join you to talk about games. Of course, I am also joined by Barry. Hey, Barry, how's it going?
Hey, Steve, always a pleasure.
And of course, joined by Greg as well. How you doing, Greg?
Doing pretty good for the most part. Did have a little difficulty over the last week because I had to put my iconic cat down, so
It's
so
true.
no longer will be featured in our podcast video stream here on YouTube.
That
I'm
is
so
sad
sorry.
for multiple reasons, but because it did not only for you, but that cat actually meant something at the podcast too. So a
Mhm.
lot of people when he crawl on the screen, a lot of people were really happy to see the cat. So that's really sad for many reasons. So
Moment of
Yep.
silence.
well, I'm so sorry for you, Greg, and hope you're doing okay
Mhm.
with that. But yeah, as we've talked about multiple times before, on and off the podcast, yeah, pets are hard like that. Like they're great when they're around, but it sucks when they have to go as well. And it's I don't know, it's one of those things, I guess.
Yep.
But Anyway, we're going to be talking all about video games on this episode of the podcast. If you are new and you've never joined us live, we would love for you to let us know what all your thoughts are, what we talk about tonight. We're going to talk about what we've been playing. Then we're going to hit those reviews about the movies and kind of discuss our thoughts around those. And then we're going to hit some big headlines, let you know about what's going on in the news world of video games. And then we'll wrap up talking about what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. So that's kind of the outline of where we're going on this episode. So be kind of thinking ahead if you are joining us live. We'd love to know what your thoughts are. Just throw them in the live chat, either on YouTube or Twitch. If you've never gone live with us, we go live every other Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And yeah, we'd love to have you in the chat and joining as the fourth member of the podcast team as well. But yeah, let's jump in without delay to what we have been playing, and let's start with Barry tonight.
Uh, so this, I'm still trying to finish up stuff before my impending child destroys my life and changes everything for the future. So I'm still doing Pokemon Unite. Still doing daily stuff. Been playing some Theater Rhythm. They dropped the Near first pack and Near DLC, and I've been slowly going back and finishing some quests and just having fun playing through some of my favorite songs. Last time I was playing Bayonetta Origins. This time I finished it, as well as the bonus Jean mode that they added at the end. I really liked it. I At first I was like, I'm not gonna play this game because I do not like when you control two characters at the same time. And well, I'm still not a fan of that. I did enjoy it. I didn't 100% it, but I did enjoy the story. I did enjoy playing it. There's a lot of nods. If you're a Bayonetta fan, there's certainly some really like moments that you just smile. So they knew what they were doing. A lot of fun. Do highly recommend it. It's very different than the other Bayonettas. Of all franchises that Nintendo has their hat in, to do a game in a storybook style that's read to you like an old grandmother reading to their grandchild. Bayonetta is definitely not the game I would think they would do, but they did it and it works. So hats off to them. Then I played Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. I went through that. Uh, the All I'm missing is the extra mode, just because I don't like to replay games, so I'm figure I'll go back to it in bits and pieces. But I 100% of the main story. I did the arena. I did like 107 of the missions in the amusement park. I did the Magalore bonus that I really want to look forward to. 100% of that, and yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was quick, just a quick play, just something lighthearted and great. But my next big game, which I was hoping to finish before the podcast, and I am close, is on the PS5. It's Altaria Ryza 2. The third game came out. It looks fantastic. I meant to play this game last year after I did the first game, but I never did. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do 2 so I could do 3, and I've fallen in love. Like it's so much better than the first game. The first game was great. I love these characters. I'm really excited to see where the third game goes. I'm really excited to see where this game finishes. It's just a great JRPG series. My biggest problem with the first game was the crafting, because you had to craft certain things to move on, and you needed to sit there and grind your crafting level. This time, you still have to craft things to move on, but it's significantly easier to do it. There's no crafting level, so you can do it pretty much right away, and they give you most of the ingredients you need anyway, so it's not a hurdle. I feel it plays better, it flows better, but it's still a little cryptic. There's some times where you're like, where do I go? And I have to go to this specific zone, or I have to rest a day or two. Definitely recommend though. Very, very much a fan of the series, and I'm looking forward to the third game. PC still doing Final Fantasy 14, and of course, mobile still doing Mario Kart Tour.
Cool. Cool. Again, just a reminder, if you're watching live, let us know what you've been playing as well. Or if you're listening after the fact or watching after the fact on YouTube, please let us know in the comments as well. Greg, what you been up to lately over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, so this week my list is much shorter than normal. I had like some extra time with my daughter from her spring break and everything, so it was much more Roblox and stuff like with her, and even a few times like just playing a part like over online and everything with that. But then also like I'm still continuing with Fire Emblem Heroes, but on Switch, did some significant progress in Oregon Trail. So it's like pretty much a continuation or like a remaster of like the Apple original one that pretty much most people like around our age range probably played in at school and in our grammar school days. But it's really cool how they really stayed true to it, but then really expanded it in the ways that you'd want to see it. So you can kind of like customize your party like an RPG, and can bring in like the different classes of characters, like the banker and the farmer and stuff. And then each one has certain stats where like, oh, if you like run into like a disaster or something, then you probably want like, if it's going to be like money related, then they have like diplomacy like skills to kind of haggle down for like the prices and stuff, if like you want to not pay as much or trade for like trade less materials away for other ones that you want to get. And then in addition, like the farmer helps take care of the animals and also subsequently is a better hunter for when you actually do like the hunting mode. So it does like praise, it's like it kind of keeps like that original hunting screen like mostly intact. So it's like the very generic like a almost like 8-bit style like design where you're just like a 2D character, and you can just spin in any of the pretty much all the 8 directions and just shoot and fire as many shots as you can at the animals. There's still like a buffalo and deer and like the rabbits and stuff. So it's like all the same types of animals that you found in the original game. So it's really cool the way they expanded on that. And in addition, like there was like even like some multiple paths to take through. So there's like a little map that you get to kind of select if you want to like take a top or bottom route thing. So if you've kind of played Metopia, it's kind of similar to that, where each level has like a branching path, and it's you still get to the same end destinations and stuff, but you can kind of take different routes, and each route can have different hazards and stuff that you run into, and still has like the RNG of like when your wagon breaks down and stuff. So it's
And
got
still die of dysentery.
yeah,
I
that's
gotta
actually one of
say,
the that's one of the achievements actually. So it's like
Yes.
and it does have like built-in like achievements and stuff for completing like the story segments and doing certain things, like if you made it through without getting sick, or you made it through without the wagon breaking or whatever. So it's like there's all these different like achievements for like you can unlock during your adventure. So it's definitely really cool and true to the original, but also like pretty much modernized it. So it's an awesome game. I definitely recommend it for anyone that was a fan of playing the game in the 90s. And if you didn't, like you could still easily dive into it. It's still a lot of fun to play, and it's still got that classic gameplay that can keep you wanting to play for hours.
Nice. Nice. Well, for maybe the first time ever, I think I might have a longer list than Barry, uh, which which is
whoa,
yeah.
what?
Whoa, I know what happened.
Do we need an
There,
hour count here?
yeah. So I'm gonna try to run through these as quick as I can, but I do have there's a lot of games that they're indie games that I think for all of them I got codes, most of them unsolicited before, and just finally got around to actually getting some time to play some of them and spend some time with all of them. So yeah, I'm gonna try to give it like a quick little summary of each of them and tell you my thoughts on all of them as I go through. So bear with me, but I'm gonna try to do all that. The first one is Hyper 5. So it just came out actually is today or tomorrow. I can't remember from East Asia Soft. But it's a shmup, and it claims to incorporate more like realistic graphics and modes, and but so it promised a lot, as is tends to be the case with a lot of shmups lately, at least indies that East Asia Soft puts out, unfortunately. But I'll just say that the menus are weird. It has voice acting, so that's cool, but it's not balanced well. So I don't know if you remember back in like the SNES days when they started to put voice acting in, like Star Fox, for instance. It's like it was kind of overpowered by the music, and it can't really exactly tell what it's saying. So it's kind of like that, or even better yet, like the voice acting that was kind of in like Top Gun for NES, like that. It's like very faint. You're like, I think that's what they said. That's kind of like the you can adjust it in the options to like give the voices a little bit more. I'm like, but why do I have to do that? It should be balanced better from the company themselves. But anyway, it's also got a unnecessarily high difficulty at the very beginning. So you get shot through explosions, which is great because there's a huge explosion and then they're shooting you through the explosion. You don't even know how to dodge. So like that's fun. And then also you get shot at from all around. So as the ships pass you, they'll shoot at you from all around. So you're constantly having to dodge. You get blindsided. The second level, I got blindsided by a laser beam that came out of nowhere. As soon as it popped on the screen from the right, it started shooting, and you can't dodge it because it's a laser beam that goes all the way across the screen. And there's cutscenes which are cool, but they play each time, and there's no way to skip them. So if a boss battle comes up, you're flying, you're shooting from the behind for a while, and then eventually it crosses you, and then you're on the other side. You can't turn around and shoot, so you plays a cut scene, which has your ship flying by it, and then turning around and coming at the other direction, and then you start playing again, and then it all happens again and again until the time runs out or you beat the boss. And so, like, yeah, I'm gonna say pass on Hyper 5. There's very few redeeming qualities to that one. I also played Furry Fury Smash and Roll, which is kind of a one-on-one or a team-based top-down battle game. And so levels are sometimes random, like when the enemies and items show up and you play it, but you're basically like this little furry character that's in a ball and you're shooting yourself across, and you have power-ups, but I couldn't figure out how to use them. I think they might be automatic. Um, and I'm not really sure what I'm rolling over all the time. I'm not sure how hits are calculated, and some enemies are confusing. It's more of a trial and error kind of a thing. The difficulty though ramps up well. Like it's pretty easy at the beginning, and then it ramps up, but it's at a good pace. But also, I found myself playing it quite a bit, even though, even if it wasn't at the level that I would have preferred that game to be. Like there's some nitpicky things, like not really sure what the power ups were and things like that. I'd found myself all of a sudden it was like an hour later. I'm like, why am I still playing this game? So it pulled me in, even though like it wasn't perfect, but I had a lot of fun with it. I also played another game called In, I think it's what it's called. It's IIN. It's a puzzle game that has absolutely no instructions whatsoever. So you have to figure out what to do in the beginning. It's not too difficult, but you just need to go into it knowing that you're going to have to figure out what to accomplish and how to do it. And and then there's a lot of trial and error, of course, and try to just work it through. But the big thing comes into play is once you beat it, is try to beat it even faster, because there is an online leaderboard, and that's what kept me coming back faster and faster to try to get up on the leaderboard. So I think I'm number 3 in the world for the top, for the very first level right now. I think I'm like 11 for second level and like 5, I think, for the third level or something. So Yeah, it's pretty fun. Probably only that good because there's not a ton of people playing it. Uh, but played another puzzle game called Windowsill, which is a really simple puzzle game. I'd say think of it like each level is incredibly simple but artsy escape room where you have to figure out the solution for that one screen level or one screen level to progress to the next level. It's really short though. I beat it in well under an hour, maybe even 30 minutes. I can't remember exactly, but it was pretty short. But it was well done, and it's very artistic. It all came from this guy's drawings, and then they turned it into a game. So if you kind of like coming up with challenges to overcome, like escape room kind of stuff, it's pretty fun. Played Sky Children of the Light, which is a beautiful progress focused adventure. I don't even know if there's enemies in the game, but it's also unclear what to do sometimes. Feels like I think it's on online multiplayer as well, where you're playing all at the same time as other people. So you can cooperate if you want to, or you can go at it solo. It says that the music is and the atmospheric sounds are a big part of the game. So I put on my headphones, I was ready for it, and it was really good, but I don't really know if it was a huge like part of my experience. It was good, but it wasn't like, oh, this really adds to it. Um, and so I'm withholding my final thoughts on that one because I've only really just started that game. Played another one called, actually, I don't know how to pronounce this. It's called Kickerenho World. Kickerenho World. I don't know. It's a soccer juggling game that has your one character facing you, and it's a mobile game that they ported over to Switch. And basically, you use, because your character's facing you, you're mirrored. So it's like ZL for the R for the right foot, ZR for the left foot, and then if you hold down both, it's using your head to head the ball, and then apparently you get to select your character at the beginning, but it didn't really give me an option for more, but it didn't really matter anyway. And the problem is that I couldn't get past the second stage where you had to head the ball because it kept telling me to use both buttons even though I was. And it wasn't something wrong with my controller because I'd use it at another time and it worked perfectly fine. So it was like it's precision timing and something's messed up with it not registering hits like button presses when it should. So yeah, I spent a whole maybe 15 minutes with that game. And then I played a game called Rubber Bandits, which is almost like this top-down brawler on a single screen stage. You can play it solo or against or with other three other players, and it's cross-platform as well, which is kind of cool. You have it's kind of rubbery controls, but it fits the genre that they're going after. It's like they're embracing the fact that it's kind of rubbery controls, and you're like swinging your limbs around to fight things. You can pick up probably pretty much anything in the room and throw it or shoot it or whatever. And basically, it's a brawler, or there's different levels where you can try to collect more loot than the rest of the people or whatever. Basically, you're going there either fighting or collecting loot or something like that. And the arcade adventure was mostly fun. It wasn't too difficult. I had a lot of fun with that. Online was good when it worked, and cross platform play was a huge bonus for that game as well. But yeah, that was Rubber Bandits, and I of course was also playing some Rocket League and some Clash Royale. So that's what I've been playing. I've been talking too much. Barry, tell me what the chat room has been saying.
You talked more than I think you have in an entire episode, like ever. Like I think that one thing was just that was really you just going, how can I review a bunch of games that I need to review? Oh, I'll do it this way
Yep.
instead. Brilliant. So the chat, we've been talking. We got Jesse Glenn in here. Hey Jesse. We also have Blake. Uh, so welcome you guys. They are talking about Professor Layton. They're talking about Phoenix Wright, and the main topic has been the wonderful, as Jesse puts it, eShop Armageddon, with the desolation and destruction of the Wii U and 3DS eShop, where you can no longer download, I'll say 99% DLC or K games anymore, and the added stress that I had to deal with, and how a lot of people couldn't get everything they wanted. So I don't know if you guys. I was actually inputting codes. Like I feel really bad for there's a lot of independent developers on like Twitter. Be like, my game, all my work is on the Wii U, and it's gonna die, and I've got codes here. Please just take them. Play our game because it's dead. Like we have all these codes, and we can't get money anymore.
Hmm.
So just take the game and at least enjoy it. So yeah, it's been an interesting interesting experience. So I don't know if you encountered any of the eShop Armageddon style stuff, but again, this is why I champion physical as well, because then we won't have to worry about this.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I saw that was it the completionist Gerard like bought everything.
Yep,
And I
bought
was
everything.
like, well, that's nice if you can do that. I don't know how he fit it all on a hard drive or whatever.
Oh,
I didn't
he
watch the
had
video. I just heard that he
multiple.
did it. And
He
can
had
you do that
multiple.
on? Because I know you can't swap them out on Switch, but I guess you can swap them out on 3DS
Yeah.
and Wii U.
If you watch his video, it's a very Nintendo thing too, because not only can you like in the 3DS, you have to download one game at a time. So you literally have to sit there for each, but you can only input up to I think $200 in at a time, and there's a cap. There's a cap where only so much in your wallet. So they had to input a few codes at a time, then buy stuff, wait for them to download, then input more codes
Oh
instead of just
man.
doing all the money all at once and then just pinging them all. It took them probably an extra day or two just inputting codes and at that slow trickle because
Wow.
Nintendo and their backwards regulations.
Wow. Well, I guess you move forward in some things, but not so much the other things. So glad you can
I
put more
mean,
money and you can download more games at a time. But the fact that you can't hot swap micro SD cards is a pain.
yeah, that's the biggest problem, at least with the Switch. But I mean, I guess I can understand like why it was even designed that way in the 3DS. Because I mean, this I'm sure that's like the biggest like hit that the 3DS server even really hit because like the average person's just like, oh, I just want to buy whatever like 2 3 games at a time. You're not going to be like buying like thousands of dollars of eShop gift cards and be like, all right, now I'm gonna have $1,000 in my wallet. All right, let's just buy everything on the store. Like
Look,
it's not the average use case. Like
you should never limit people spending money if you're a business. Your objective is to make people buy things and easily spend money. Especially, I was doing stuff with the 3DS here towards the end. I was updating all my games because I didn't know if you would be able to update like
Oh,
all the games I had and all the applications I had, and that took me about 30 minutes because each one I had to click update and then sit and wait for the update to go before I can move on. And I was like, oh my god, like this is ridiculous. I just want to update these. Can I update
oh
all?
man,
Like like modern? No, you can't with the
that's crazy.
3DS. It's I forgot how slow it was because it's been a while since I used
Yeah.
it. The Wii U was at least a little better, but still.
well, yeah,
Wow.
that's because it was like the 3DS and Wii eras, like when they really started actually just selling digital copies and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like it was pretty much 100% physical outside like like a very small selection of indie games, but then it really like blew up like over the course of its lifetime, and like, oh, now I can get like Super Mario 3D Land is like now digital, Mario Kart 7 is now digital, and like that, like those launched like after the game, like the physical copies were out, I believe.
Yeah.
And think about how much DLC is now gone forever if you didn't download. Like New Super Mario 2 had Mario levels that were
Yep.
DLC. If you didn't get them, they're gone. Smash Brothers for 3DS and for Wii U, if you didn't get those extra characters and stages and all that stuff, they're gone. You can never play with them again unless you're playing with someone who had them downloaded. Mario Kart 8's DLC at least was brought over. Same with like Hyrule Warriors, but there's so many DLC packs and updates. Mario Golf, I think on the 3DS had some DLC. Like, oh, then this is first party Nintendo stuff. Fire Emblem
Yeah.
had a ton of DLC, all gone, just
Yeah.
gone. No access to it anymore, and that's terrible. That you know what? Port. I think games need to be ported to the that should be a thing. Just keep porting games to the newest system with all DLC. Give access to it because I hate to see games gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then one person's gonna go, I've got the DLC on my 3DS. I want $1,000 for it or $2,000, and you have no choice. You want to play it.
Yep. That's
Remember
unfortunate.
Flappy Bird on the phone? How many people were selling phones with Flappy Bird for a stupid amount of
Mm-hmm.
money?
Yep. Well, let's move into something a little more positive than Eshop's going away. The new movie that's hit the theaters around the world so big was the Super Mario Brothers movie, which came out on April 5th of 2023. And I just want to share some numbers with you guys, just to just put this in perspective. The overall sales for United States alone on opening weekend was 204.5 million in the US, and then banking 375.6 million worldwide. For reference, another movie that came out this last weekend, Air, about the Air Jordan shoes, is a Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie. Should have been really big. In fact, it was pretty big. Opened at 20.2 million. So in comparison, 375 million to 20.2 million. It is now the second highest start for an animated film, ahead of Frozen 2 and Finding Dory. First is Incredibles 2, which did top the Super Mario Brothers movie. And it's also now the highest opening for any video game movie adaptation. The previous winner was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at a mere 72 million. And Mario topped it with 375.6 million. Even though the Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 57%, the audience score is 96%. So even if the critics are not liking it, the audience score is so strong. And before we jump into our thoughts and everything like that, let's just quick rundown. I think we've talked about this on previous episodes, but when did you get to be able to see it, Barry?
Wasn't able to go opening day, but I went Thursday, so the day after April 6th, the matinee showing. So it was early in the day.
Nice. And Greg, how about you?
I had went for a matinee on Friday. Was that the 7th then? But yeah, it was. I originally was going for an afternoon show, but then just due to some scheduling changes and other things that came up, I was thankfully able to get some tickets for an earlier showing that day. So it was ended up being like one of the very first showings for the day there. So
Nice. So yeah, I actually so I had tickets to go see it on Friday with some friends, and then Wednesday came about, and I was planning on being busy all day on Wednesday. I had lots of things going on, and then all of a sudden things were happening quicker than I anticipated, and I found myself with a couple hours in the afternoon free. And not only did I have a couple hours free, I also had a free movie ticket from Regal Cinemas that was sitting in my app that was just burning a hole in the app. And I thought, I have a couple hours. I have a movie ticket. Let's go see it today. And so I saw it on Wednesday for a matinee showing on opening day around 3:30, and then I went on Friday night to go see it with friends. And funny enough, like, I don't know if this was the case across the board, but the Regal in my town gave me matinee price tickets on the Friday night 8 o'clock showing. Like, we still got matinee prices. So I was like, I don't know
Lucky
why.
you.
I wasn't complaining, and nor were the people that went with me that had to repay me. It was like, hey guys, it's a lot cheaper than I thought. But I don't know if that was something that they were doing all over the place, or just maybe a glitch in the system that we got to benefit from, or what. But yeah, so that was cool. Um, and so yeah, I saw it twice. I will say, before we jump into anything, if you guys are looking for a run through of like all the Easter eggs in the movie and all that sort of thing, that is not what we're here to do in this on this podcast. There are way too many things that are included in this movie. Little nods to so many of the games and so many of the songs and everything that's throughout this movie. So I would encourage you guys. I don't know about you guys if you've seen any, but I'm a big fan of New Rockstars on YouTube as well, and they've got an amazing breakdown and an Easter egg video that's over there. Just hop over to New Rockstars, watch their videos. That you'll see all the different. They nitpick the entire not nitpick. Sorry, they break down the entire movie and the finest details. I don't know how they do it because it's still in theaters. They don't have their own copy of it, but somehow they've nailed like almost every little detail in the movie. And there's a ton of them. So, Barry, let's start off with this question. What did you initially think about the movie, and over time, have any of your thoughts changed?
Initially, I smiled the entire time. Multiple times, my wife and I would just kind of like nudge each other, like, "Oh, look, look, look," just because of how, influential this series has been in my life. And the whole time I was just enjoyed, and like some people teared up. I didn't. I was strong the whole time until the credits. And then when the freaking credits happened and it credited former president of Iwata, I was just like, they put Iwata there, like, boom, here come the fire, like the tears. I was like, I can't, I'm crying now, and that made me wonder, like, how far along was this movie when he died? Like, did he have initial? Was he part of the initial talks? Was like, how did he have his hand in this? Is any of this his thing? But it was just like the fact that they even credited him. It was just like, damn, for some reason that hit me, and that hit me hard. And I was like, damn it, now I'm crying. Like, what the heck? Like, no one look at me. I'm crying in a Mario movie. But no, like, I left the theater very happy. Thinking back on it, that initial high teetered a little bit down, and I think my only negative that I can't like that in that span was the licensed music. Like, obviously that was Illumination doing stuff like the "You Need a Hero." I thought that was fitting. I was like, you know what? That was fine. But when I found out what was supposed to be there instead of "Take on Me," and I heard the song that was supposed to be there, and someone put it in the spot, I was horrified. I was like, why did they do this?
Oh,
Why?
I
I
did
don't know
not
if
hear
you knew
about
about that.
this.
So,
No,
"Take on Me" plays, and if we're gonna talk about it, when they get to the Kong village,
that's true.
when they get
Actually,
in the
we should
car.
probably just warn
Oh,
ahead of time.
spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. We're going to talk all about the movie. So, yeah,
Obviously.
just a warning there. Like, it's probably seems like it's evident so far, but just ahead of time, we're going to give you a warning. Spoilers. If you're not interested, skip ahead quite a bit, because we're going to be talking about the movie for a lot in this episode. But yeah, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, so when they get to the Kong village, um, the they get in a car and they're driving along to go see Cranky Kong, and they play Aha's "Take on Me."
Hmm.
Uh, and it's a great song. I love that song, very 80s. But but there was a medley done for Donkey Kong Country with several of the Donkey Kong songs, and it's on the soundtrack, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Like it brought tears to my eyes just listening to it. And of course, that's been taken down. And the same thing with "I Need a Hero." There was another song there um, that was supposed to be in there, and it's just like, why? Why? And it seems that all the licensed music, Thunderstruck, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, all that stuff had Mario or Donkey Kong music in there. And Illumination just, I guess, was like, no, we need licensed stuff.
Hmm.
And I really, really hope, because they're on the soundtrack, that when the Blu-ray comes out, you can watch the movie with the original audio that was
Hmm.
supposed to be there. That was my one negative, and all the other music, the licensed music didn't bother me. But "Take on Me" was the one that really was just, that's an odd choice
Hmm.
for a driving scene, and now I know why.
Yeah.
And then when I found out about the other stuff, I was like, oh
I heard someone else that critiqued it as well and said that if you're gonna go with the song, because I like the fact like it didn't bother me. Hearing what you just told me bothers me now,
that's when
but
it bothered me more.
when I didn't know it, I thought the music made sense, and they pulled all these '80s songs, which totally made sense. It fit the whole genre, it fit the timing. But someone was saying, I can't remember who it was, but they said, why not go with "Welcome to the Jungle" instead?
Yeah,
but
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 yeah.
anyway, yeah. So okay. So Greg, any initial thoughts, and have your thoughts changed over the last few days?
I mean, I kind of went in going with like lower expectations because like even though I was like super pumped and kind of had a lot of knowledge and stuff of the trailers, it was still kind of like a quite unsure how they were going to go with it, like with the story and everything like that. But then like definitely like watching it, like it like skyrocketed way past like any of those expectations. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had pretty much a smile on my face the entire time. I was constantly looking over at my daughter to see if she was enjoying it. And then I was also pointing out a lot of those musical cues because like they really drew upon like a lot of the history of like the Mario franchise. Like they had songs from like the very first game. They've also had like kind of some remixes of other from like, the more recent ones, like New Super Mario Brothers. And so it was like all these different tracks from like the Mario series, like all in there together, and that was just phenomenal. Just like have all that played together. But yeah, as Barry was talking about how they had made that like addition, like a change somewhat last minute, that's definitely seems kind of disappointing. Where like a Donkey Kong medley would have been more appreciated at that point. But I did feel like when I had heard it, the song didn't seem like it was technically meant for that because like as Barry was kind of describing, it's not usually what you think when you hear that "Take on Me" song playing. Like it's, I always like have that Family Guy visual of how they did it, and that's kind of like more of like a style of something that I was expecting, and not like a intro scene to like a new like kingdom kind of thing. But it's, I don't know, it was
If
just
I was gonna say, I sent you, Steve, a link. I don't know if you could play it on the podcast, but it's a song. The song is called "Driving Me Bananas." It's very short because it was a shorter scene. But if you could play it, then that's just an example of what should have been there. So picture that scene with this playing,
Mm-hmm.
and overtake on me instead. And I'm curious your thoughts. I don't know if you're able
Yeah.
to do it on the podcast. I don't know if we get hit with. I don't know if I won't get hit
Yeah,
with
we
anything.
probably should play it safe and not play music. But the whole soundtrack is like it's like 30 something songs, 30, 40
Yeah,
songs, I don't know whatever it is. That's available on all streaming devices, so you can find it on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff.
I am
But
8-bit has the physical. They even have a cassette. There's a vinyl cassette and a CD.
nice. Nice. That's cool. So yeah, any further thoughts in general, Greg?
But yeah, I definitely did like all the small like notes and throwbacks and stuff to different things. I like the fourth wall thing with Mario playing a NES at the very
Mhm.
beginning of the movie. That was also really cool thing to see. I didn't know if they were really going to go for like the huge take and action playing his own game like Super Mario Brothers, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That might have been kind of like a very weird kind of thing to have him playing his own game kind of thing.
It was
But
pretty close with having the Donkey Kong game in the pizza parlor at the very
Yeah,
beginning,
but they
calling
changed
it
the name of it.
Jumpman, but yeah,
Is it
but
Jumpman? I thought it was Help Me Jumpman.
I all I know it was definitely Jumpman. I don't know if it was Help Me Jumpman or not, but Jumpman was definitely in the title.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
well,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think that was the actual like, yeah, that's been pretty much one of those like Mario factoids things. That's
yeah,
been his original name since his inception, and then they
hmm
obviously gave him the name for the Arcade Bros or the Mario Bros. Arcade. But
hmm
I definitely appreciated all those different like callback things, like even like in the Donkey Kong areas, they were showing like all the beams like from like the original arcade game kind of thing too, and that was awesome, cool references there.
hmm
And even appreciate how they kept like all the stuff with the power ups. Even like if you get hit, then like you lose it, and like they kept
yeah,
that all intact. But then like even if you got hit like numerous times after that, then it didn't really matter too. Though it's like, oh, you're an actual person, so that
yeah,
was also
yeah.
a little bit on the unusual side because normally Mario just would die, but obviously you can't have him doing that in the middle of the game, so
Yeah,
or in the middle of
I
the movie. So
I think that actually that reminds me, Greg. One of the things that I really appreciated. Number one, we'll get into some of the Easter eggs and some of the ones that we really liked in just a second. But I wanted to draw out this parallel that I think they did a really good job at in connecting us as the players of the game, but put Mario in that position within the movie. So he never gave up. He kept trying, kept learning as he gone. If he fell down, he got back up and started it over again from the beginning. All those different things and that kind of mentality is like us as the player. When we play a Mario game, you're going to fall and you're going to fail a lot, but you're going to start over and go at it again and never give up. And that was really cool to see that connection between the main character of the movie to us as the player in the real game, and how they drew that together. And it seemed like at first I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool connection, and then it just kept coming up and over, and I was like, oh, they had to have intended that the whole way through, and that was really cool.
Well, it was also a learning thing, right? They did the whole like, oh, my thing is I'll never give up, never give up. And at the end, when he feels like he wants to give up,
Yeah,
and he remembers that, like, no, I can't give up. It's a good lesson.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So let's talk about those Easter eggs. Of course, like I said, there's no way we're going to cover all of them, but what were some of your favorites? And I'm gonna start with one because Greg kind of mentioned it earlier with the power ups. This wasn't necessarily an Easter egg, but kind of a funny thing that I found that they kind of just did on the side, and attention was drawn to it, but it wasn't like a significant thing. But when even in that training montage, even when he got tired of eating so many mushrooms and he was throwing up, then he lost his power in that too. I was like, that's just fantastic. Just the little details throughout the whole thing. So whether it be like little details or Easter eggs or whatever, it was like there it was evident that so much love went into this movie. People that knew the games, knew it so well, inward and outward, front and back. Like, of course you got Miyamoto, but I'm sure you had significant fans that were working on this movie to work on all those different things. So yeah, either of you, what were some of the ones that stood out to you?
Going on with the power up thing, I loved when they got when Mario got the Tanuki power, Mario 3 music started playing.
Mm,
Like just seamlessly. I'm like, oh, it's such a subtle nod. If you didn't know, you didn't know, it didn't phase you. But if you knew, it was like I loved it. It was just such a subtle reference that the Tanuki came from Mario 3
yeah,
originally.
yeah,
I mean, I really was praying they were going to take it a step further and have him transform into the statue, and like the Bullet Bill thing was like pushing him along. I was like, come on, just show it, like do it. And like that's like my main disappointment there is not fully utilizing the original Mario 3 Tanuki that actually did have that power up and wasn't just like a gold standard when they brought the power up back for whatever was it, 3D Land
3D
or
Land.
3D,
yeah.
yeah.
Got to save it for the
But
sequel.
Yeah, of course. He would probably do it and go, oh, I had no idea I could do that. Because you have to
Yeah,
remember, he just gained the power. He was learning to fly. But
yeah,
you actually reminded me of two other things that were actually kind of nitpicks. One is they called that a bullet bill, and it's a bonsai bill from Mario World. So I'm like, wait, that's a bonsai. The
mm,
other thing was the fact that they either retconned Donkey Kong Jr. out of existence entirely, or they just somehow made the current Donkey Kong
yeah,
Jr. without ever saying anything. And that to me that was kind of weird. I'm like, wait a minute, your son?
yeah.
Where's DK Jr.?
Yeah, he's supposed to be the grandson. Yeah, I had to just kind of accept that. I was like, hey, you know what? They're building a different world, and they're going to focus instead on Diddy Kong because Diddy Kong was in the movie, very brief cameo.
Dixie
But
was there
maybe
too.
Dixie and all the other Kongs as well. But I think that
Chunky
over
was actually next
time,
to it too. But
Diddy's
yeah.
kind of taken the place of Donkey Kong Jr. in a way to be that smaller one, and so I kind of feel like that's probably where they're going to go and moving forward with Kong movies and all that stuff is probably that turn. So it didn't bother me, but yeah, I noticed it as well.
Little things.
Yeah.
Some other Easter eggs. I was a big fan of seeing the R-wing there. Like I was
Mm.
not expecting that, and I was like, oh man, they're acknowledging Star Fox in 2023.
At least
So I
Illumination is.
I definitely had missed the R wing. I might have to go back
Oh,
and
it's on his TV when
Yeah. He's playing Kid
it's
Icarus.
he's playing Kid Icarus, which again acknowledging Kid Icarus in 2023.
Yeah.
But there's an R-wing model sitting on the TV.
Mhm.
yeah, I was definitely way too focused into the Kid Icarus because I was like thinking about like he should have been playing like Super Mario Brothers or maybe Super Mario Brothers 2 or something. But no, it was like and then I like heard the iconic like Kid Icarus sound and then like it like panned out like it was done with the scene already. So it was just
Mhm.
probably how
I
I missed the R wing.
He
But
was
yeah.
also in full screen too for Kid Icarus. It was like for a second the movie that it was just a giant Kid Icarus
Yeah.
screen. I was like, that's so weird. Like I never expected to see this.
Right. Yeah, I think there were so many, I think, call outs to the games and stuff that are just hidden throughout the whole thing, the other NES games and all of Nintendo's library. Something that got me from the very beginning is every time they didn't do it too often, but every time they turned the perspective to the side, and you saw him going at a 2D like side scroller. It was just, oh my gosh, like whenever that happened, and it was so seamless that all of a sudden you realize what happened. And the beginning stage when he's running through the construction site, it starts out like World 1-1,
Hmm.
and then he just jumping through and it turns the perspective sideways, and it was just like perfect. And then of course he lands on a flagpole right next to Castle Burger.
Yeah.
It's like, this is great. Like, so many things that just cause smiles throughout the entire movie.
One interesting thing that I read, and I had no idea about this, is apparently early on in Mario's creation, they had always planned for him to have a family. And they actually sketched out what his family would look like and never let it see the light of day. It was just kept in this like notebook, then in the Nintendo vault, and they allowed Illumination to look at that and use that as reference to craft his family. So the family you see is actually crafted from the original ideas that they had back in the 80s that they just never capitalized on it, which is one of the reasons why it's kind of meta that his father or their father looks like Talon or Tarin from both Ocarina of Time and, of course, Link's Awakening prior to that, which was modeled after Mario. Now maybe was never modeled after Mario, was maybe modeled after Mario's dad. And I didn't realize this till afterwards. He is voiced by Charles Martinet,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
so cool. It's so meta that the father is
Yeah.
voicing, or
He
he's
actually has a
voicing the
couple
father.
different voice
Couple.
credits in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the uncle, or it's never clear like what that character is, but it's the one that's playing Jumpman at the beginning. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah,
Giuseppe, I think
I
it
don't have
is, or
any
something.
problem with your accents in the commercial." And like, that was, as soon as I heard him, I was like, "Oh, that's definitely
Yeah,
Charles Martinet."
that's definitely.
Yep.
But to hear that he was the father as well, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
so perfect.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think that
Yep.
was
The father Mario is the voice of Mario.
it was a good way of doing it. And I think, I mean, let's just address it real quick. I mean, because it was such the topic of conversation before the movie came out, is the voices, especially Chris Pratt's voice. I had no problem with it. No problem at all.
no
Like,
problem.
I forgot about it halfway through the movie. I was like, oh yeah, this is just the voice, and I'm totally fine. I mean, probably even before halfway through the movie, I was okay with it.
Well, like we talked about before, if you grew up with the Super Show or the Mario 3 cartoon or Mario World, you had heard, Mario speak a lot more than he does now. So that's kind of what I pictured. So this was kind of like an extension to that. I
Mhm.
also found out that his first voice that he did was rejected because it sounded too New Jersey. And I don't know how to feel about that because I'm like, wait a minute. What are you trying to imply here?
Not quite Brooklyn, a little too Jersey.
That's fighting words, you know. We're gonna take this to the back street. Let's go.
That's awesome.
And that's exactly what they'd want you to say, Barry.
Right.
Ay paisanos, let's go.
Well, so I thought it'd be fun too as well. This movie it had a lot of heart, but it was also very funny. I was like Barry, I was smiling through the entire thing. Some because I just had to stop laughing because my face was going to hurt by the end of the movie. And bringing in certain jokes and certain things, I think it was definitely throughout the whole movie. So bringing putting more emphasis on who Jack Black is, and leaning into the fact that he is this rocker, soulful dude that just wants to sing and things like that. And I heard that he actually co-wrote the song that they included
Peaches.
in it, because Peaches. So like that just made me laugh. It didn't take me out of it too much. I was just like, of course they're doing this. That tracks. But what were some of the funniest moments for you guys where you were just like, that's hilarious, I can't believe they did that, or that's so perfect? Anything come to your mind?
A blue shell, I'd say for me.
Mm,
Like that, I was not expecting that. I didn't even like. I knew he was a blue shell turtle, Koopa. It didn't dawn on me that they were gonna do it.
yeah.
And when he did it, and I read like one criticism, like if you don't know what that is, him yelling blue shell means nothing. But I was just like, oh, I see what they did here.
Yeah.
Like it's Mario Kart. Who doesn't know blue shell and
Right.
and the sound effects and everything? Like
Hmm.
that had me laughing because I'm like, oh, they're free. They did it.
Yep.
And just like in Mario Kart, just when you think you're about to cross the finish line, blue shell screws you up.
It was perfect. Yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was definitely one of my calls, but I definitely also really appreciate like the fact like, oh, the cart got destroyed in the middle of the like midway through the race, and he was just able to jump onto another cart and then even like taking control of like like a Koopa's car, and then he jumped on him and actually got like the green shell as like the item, and then took out another like troop or whatever. So definitely apologizing for my girlfriend's dogs barking here, but I can't really say much when I'm in the middle of speaking. But yeah, it's that I like the Mario Kart section was just like so perfect the way they like tied in a lot of the different references in general, just like being on like a normal course and then like, oh, like Rainbow Road to kind of like caps the like on the to go to like the end part of like the Mario Kart scenes, and like it was just like so nicely done because you could like even like show the transitions for like Mario Kart 8 where the tires like turn sideways, and he's like, "There's no way we're gonna stay on the road," and like, "Nope, it's anti-gravity," and like that's all
Yeah.
those like definitely little touches like and nods that like really all those like minor details you could just totally see were all brought in with like with love for Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But now we know
Yeah.
there's an ocean underneath Rainbow Road too, instead of being in space.
At least that one, yeah.
At least that particular
And
Rainbow Road.
now we know. Hopefully, if they don't put that style of kart racing in the next Mario Kart
Yeah.
game, I'm gonna be
That's what
upset. You
Mario
need to
Kart
be able to
9 is.
take over different
Yep.
carts. Yeah,
Yeah, you could jump
like
over and like
attacking them
drivers.
like what was that? The Sega Outrun or no, not Outrun.
No, you're thinking
The
Road Rash?
Road Rash, where you could like attack as you're driving down. Like that's what needs to happen.
Well, drivers San Francisco, you're able to like project yourself into the other drivers and like take over their stuff. So
Oh,
maybe
that's true.
something like that. Like the goat, like they get the boo. You know, the boo would always take
Oh yeah,
items. Now you
yeah,
you steal their cards, you swap
yeah.
with them.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think for there was so many funny parts of the movie, but I've got to say I laughed probably the hardest at the Lumily. Like just
Oh yeah,
that disposition of like everything is hopeless, and I it was just so funny, and having like the king of the Blake actually just
penguins.
mentioned it in the chat as well, the depressing Luma. Yeah, and the king of the penguin king like reacting like so strongly, like, oh my gosh, okay, shut up or whatever. It was just that entire interaction was just so funny. Blake also mentioned the DK rap, which is perfect. Just so many musical nods. I read that I think there was like 350 different songs or something like that that were incorporated throughout the whole movie, which was just incredible. So with that, I'd love to talk about what did you think they just absolutely nailed? Like any part or parts in the movie, they're just like they needed to get this right, and they totally did. We were so pleased with this part.
I mean,
I,
I was definitely already saying like the Mario Kart stuff was completely nailed, like 100%. Like they really captured just about everything, like from like the cart customization thing. They had like the spinning the little dials, and you got to see all the different cart bodies, and like that, like was like full on like a complete nod to like all the Mario Kart games past like Mario Kart Wii, where they introduced all the different like changes of the carts and all of that kind of stuff, like all the car parts anyways. I know Double Dash you could select different vehicles, but they were fully assembled at that point, not like the tires and gliders and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely completely nailed. I also really appreciated some of like the underground scenes. They always like had like the classic SMB 1-2 like theme
Mhm.
song like playing like the da 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 and like it like
Yeah.
those parts were completely nailed. Even like the like going through the pipes, like it was kind of like a nod. Even like the I think even like the Super Show where they first introduced like the concept of pipes, so like you didn't
Mm.
really know where they were going, and then they had like the little gags like him going down the wrong pipe and then coming out in different spots. I mean, it like they've really paid a lot of attention to detail with a lot of that kind of stuff, and it just like even what you were saying, like with the 2D segment, and they ended up with the Castle Burger thing. They're like that was a very perfect like homage to the actual game because it was like they found a way to put an actual castle and had like an actual like sign where they could go down like a flagpole. So it's like done so perfectly well and illustrated perfectly.
Yeah.
I think it's not necessarily one moment, but a lot of little ones. Like you mentioned the music. for like the underground. But also when they went down there where they found that pipe, I don't know if you saw there was a sign that literally said level 1-2. And it was like, oh my God, like that's so cool. Like those little things. But for me, I think it was the ending. Like if I had to say one thing, like the ending battle, because I felt they could have went two ways with it. When Luigi steps in and
Mhm.
is brave and uses the manhole to protect Mario, I felt they could have had Mario just run to the superstar and be the hero, but they didn't. And the fact that they had Mario instead reach his hand out and grab Luigi, so they both grabbed the star, especially after Luigi was captured for the majority of the movie, and they both, you know, kicked butt and they saved the day, including saving Spike and all that stuff. I thought that was very well done, and the relationship they had, the love for each other, it really shone. And, it's kind of funny when you think about it. Player one is Mario, player two is Luigi, and they usually take turns back and forth, or they go against each other in a Mario Brothers style game. And it's like interesting to now they're working together and what they can accomplish together. So
Mhm.
that to me was just, I think, the perfect capstone. And I was worried. I was
Mm.
worried they were going to do it where Mario did it and it was, he saved the day completely and Luigi just stepped in as a sacrifice, and they didn't. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for not making him a sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also say I think they did a really good job of changing it up with Peach. Like
Yeah.
not making her the damsel in distress, but giving her almost a leading role. Like I almost feel like at times it was more of her movie than Mario's movie because it definitely wasn't the entire thing wasn't a Mario Brothers movie because they were
Yeah.
separated for the majority of it. But it was they gave it to her and it didn't feel weird at all. It didn't feel out of place. It matched, it connected. It wasn't this trope that they've leaned on for so long that they've kind of gotten away from at times in the games. But it didn't seem weird at all. I thought they totally nailed it in
I
that way too.
mean, if you think about it, I saw like one person said like, "Oh, this is terrible that they did that with her, and they should make her a princess and damsel in distress, and it's sending the wrong message to young women." And I'm like, "Please, please stop talking. Just stop talking." Um, if you think about it, Peach was playable since 1988 with Mario 2 US version, and continued in every Mario Kart. She's been playable, and obviously Super Princess Peach, and then Mario 3D World, and she's been playable multiple times. In fact, sometimes she's the best character, like Mario too.
Hmm.
And I love to see it because she's ruler. Like the way they explained this is that she seemed to be human. She got teleported in there, and she was raised, and they made her the leader. And as leader, you would want your leader to not hightail and run away and hide, but to get out there and to fight for your kingdom and fight for you. And that's what she did. She's like, oh, okay, all the toads trust me, so I need to do what I need to do and go out there and be a good leader and a ruler. And I think it sends a very positive message.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see. Cranky did the same thing. Cranky was protective of his army, and when he lost, he was on his bike as well. He was out there, planning the attack as well. Like, okay, I'm going to go out with my army. I'm not just going to send them. I'm going to go out with them. So
Hmm.
I think that's like a really good positive message, and I feel a lot of people forget that. Like so many games, it's like the king or the queen or the princess, whatever, sits on their throne and says, "Here's the quest I'm gonna bestow you, young knight. I need you. You're of age of 16, and I need you to slay a god and save the world while I sit on my ass and do nothing." Instead, this was the polar opposite, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I thought it was made her like at least developed a lot more of a character for her because Peach is barely gets like any actual story like development, like obviously in the games because she's always like busy at Bowser's castle. But it's even great that they kind of even had the nod to Mario Odyssey and like had Bowser's true intention of like why he
Hmm.
wants to like conquer the Mushroom Kingdom. Like so that's even like connected that dot that like almost made like Mario Odyssey like the pretty much the bare bones like this is the whole idea of why Bowser has been obsessed with Peach over all this time is because he like wanted to marry her and like wanted to connect the kingdoms together and everything. So it's
Hmm.
I thought that was all well put together and really able to still kind of explain that dynamic that they've had for like the last like 3 decades.
Yeah.
Well, remember in Paper Mario, she would get captured, and then she would just like get out of her cage and do things, and then just go back in, and like the whole time she was never really captured. She was like, yeah, whatever. Like I'll
Yeah.
let them think they have me, and she kind of did that too when she did Surrender. She was still free and she was still walking around and she was still doing things and trying to help and even planned the bouquet.
Hmm.
She wasn't going down without a fight. She had a contingency plan.
Yeah. So I really think I like how they pulled everything in. I heard someone talk about how they felt that this entire movie was almost like a huge, a big episode of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Just kind of like playing it. They came from Brooklyn and they just blew this whole thing up for 90 minutes. And I loved how they connected the worlds. I thought it was cool, like the 3D maps and the 2D maps and the top down maps and all of the different things connected, how they turned the jungle sort of world into DK's world, and they had all these different maps and everything. Um, and I liked the call from our world into that world, and it's all somehow connected through these magical pipes, and we don't know how, but we're just going to accept it and move forward through it. But I'd love to like just spend a little bit of time talking on what I think the biggest misses are, and that leads me to say I think my biggest miss, I would have preferred them to stay in that world for the final fight. I thought it was weird that they came back to Brooklyn and then they went back. And originally, I don't know how that happened because it seemed like everything was destroyed and it was kind of weird. Just like, why go
It was
back?
the bullet bill or the bonsai bill that did
Right.
it.
And so it seemed like they sucked him in, but then they were back. And so like, I don't know. It for me, because that bonsai bill or whatever they want to call it, and they're destroyed that one. Like, but he just went to the world between worlds and blew up. So how did they all of a sudden get pulled back specifically into the our world
The plot
when
demands
instead of
it.
all the other ones? I guess. Yeah. That's why
Situational.
it was
Random.
situational based on the plot. And I think they didn't need to necessarily do that. They could have had that fight within the Mushroom Kingdom or wherever instead. And I would have preferred that. But it's a minor thing in the whole scheme of things. I like the movie, but in terms of where the misses, I was like, oh, that was an interesting choice. I wouldn't have chose that myself. Doesn't mean I hate the movie. Just means I wouldn't have picked that. So, Barry, any misses that I know you mentioned the music earlier. Is that
The
like your
music was
biggest miss?
definitely I also when like at the end of the movie, it shows them back in the bedroom and they're getting ready for work and the big reveal was they go outside and they're really in the Mushroom Kingdom even though you think they're back in Brooklyn. But I was hoping, I'm like, "Oh, please do this," when they're in that scene, instead for the door to knock and open and in comes Daisy in like camo and military gear going, "Mario, Luigi, we need your help."
Yes,
It's like a
just
full
ended
reference.
exactly like the other one.
Yes, I was like, "Yes, do that." And I was like, "You had a cool miss," because obviously they can go to Mario Land. Where they're talking about like maybe Wario, and Wario, of course, is part of Mario Land, and they could absolutely do that and introduce Daisy. I mean, Daisy's been a relevant character now forever. They can go to her land, and I mean, they could do this. It could be a great tie-in and a throwback. They threw back to the Super Show. Let's throw back to the first movie in that way, and just have something fun like that. But
Yeah,
no, they didn't. It was
yeah,
like it would have just been a wonderful little like nod
yeah.
or something like I would have loved to seen some kind of nod to the original movie like the booster boots or and do the Mario. I think it should have ended with do the
Mm,
Mario. If they started with the Super Show,
yeah,
they should have ended with the do the Mario like somewhere in there. They did the DK rap. Look, come
right.
on, do the Mario in there.
Yeah, that's true. Greg, any misses that you can think of?
I mean, I definitely agreed with you, Steve. I felt like going back to Brooklyn at the very end felt very out of place. Like I thought like the battle could easily have taken place in the Mushroom Kingdom, but I get why they had to do that because they wanted to like show like, hey, mom and dad, like we're actually our heroes, and they
Yeah,
did need to connect them there, but it didn't really make any sense for any of them to get sucked into the Mushroom Kingdom. So I do
sure.
get like why they had to transition it back the way they did, but it did feel out of place in
Yeah,
general too. But
yeah.
yeah.
Especially if they're going to end up back in the Mushroom Kingdom, is where they live. Like, does it really matter what your family thinks about you? You're not going to live with them anyway.
No, it does. It
Yeah,
does
it
matter.
does. I'm just kidding.
They should have said monkeys too. Like that should have been there. Like Bowser should have went there and looked at them and go monkeys.
Nice.
I do think it is time to address like one of the main points that I was kind of really disappointed was like there with at least with Yoshi, there was like a split second scene where they had like some of the Yoshis like running like when like the to the battlefield like when Donkey Kong and like Mario were about to fight and stuff. And then there was like they had like the very end like secret scene at the very after all the culmination of the entire credits like with you hear like the egg hatching and being Yoshi. But I really wish that he had like a little bit more of a presence, whether it was just going to like a dinosaur land kind of thing. And I understand like they could easily do this for like the second movie as like they did with like Mario Galaxy. Like the first one was more about Mario, and then like okay, Mario Galaxy 2 is Yoshi. So I do get like that does leave room for other movies, but it did feel kind of somewhat out of place that you did show a Yoshi in the actual movie, like in that very small, like split second scene, and then you have like that huge like tease at the very end of it, and like it almost could have just been completely like neglected, or at least I think they should at least been more built upon and more references to, like at least acknowledging there is a dinosaur land kingdom and stuff, and like the ruler of the Yoshis and that kind of stuff. But
See, I
I don't
disagree
know.
with that. I think the fact that they showed Yoshi's Island, they obviously they traveled across it. I wish there was more to that montage of them traveling, but that's a different topic. However, the fact that Yoshi didn't appear in full made total sense because this game or this movie was really Mario, the origin, Mario 1 and Mario 3. Since 2 was a dream, we really can't say 2.
And
Yes,
really,
they had the
3 was
cape.
a retelling of 1. And
1,
so,
yeah.
yeah. So,
They had the capes, but the capes were only used in the commercial, like as a cheap little thing. You could see them on the stools. They're not the power up capes. Um, it was more of a nod. So the fact that they didn't need Yoshi, they didn't. I see like Blake saying like, what are characters like Wario and Waluigi? You can't put too many things. It's a 90-minute movie. You can't blow all your eggs in one basket. Like you have to do that slow build. So the fact that Yoshi was the gift brought during the wedding and then that was the one that hatched. It was cool. It connected it, but it was a tease to say, hey, you know where we're going now? We're going to do Super Mario World. And we know the history. And yes, Lumas are there. So we know Galaxy exists and Peach has to think about all these galaxies. So you know that, Rosalina's out there somewhere. You don't need to see her right in this movie. You don't need to see Daisy, although, like I said, at the end, that would have been awesome. But the Sarasa Land or wherever it was, like her kingdom is out there. And they'll get to it. But I don't think they needed to do everything in one shot. I think what they did was focus on the important characters, the major characters for the very beginning of the story, do that, and then go into the larger world. Maybe because of him saving in one or in this movie, he gets a castle, and while he goes off to help Daisy, Wario comes in and takes the castle when they do a movie on Mario Land 1 and 2, and they incorporate Yoshi's in there. So it's kind of a mix, and the Koopa kids, haven't appeared. Where are they? Well, obviously that's part of Mario World. Even though they were in 3, it was just too many characters to,
yeah.
to incorporate. So I'm
Yeah.
fine with the way they did Yoshi because they knew everyone wanted Yoshi. They knew people, he's a fan favorite, and they used him as a tease. That's all they had to do. Just
Yeah.
use him as a tease.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that in terms of what they hit, I think they hit it well by not putting too much in this movie. And I remember talking about it on this podcast. I was really worried that they were going to cram way too much in this, and I didn't feel they did in the end. I think they handled it all well, and they teased what they needed to tease for future projects, and they really just leaned into the handful of things they really wanted to show off in this one. And I know some of the critics have said like that they didn't flesh out enough. And yes, I would have preferred, like there's certain times where I was like, oh wow, he just agreed to fight Donkey Kong, and the next moment he is walking into that fight. In a normal, movie, you would have seen him struggle with mentally with like, man, did I make the right decision? How am I going to do this? Do I need to train some more? All those different things are going to happen before he actually steps into that. But it was okay. It was okay to just keep it moving because my wife and I, when we're talking, she's like, well, that's how a video game is. especially a Mario game. You just go, 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 go. And that's how that was the pacing of the movie as well. You're off and running at the beginning of the movie, and you don't stop until you get to the end.
Yeah.
And there was never a light moment. There was never a dull moment in this movie because they just kept the pacing, go, 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 go. And I feel it worked for what they were trying to do because of that. And because they're trying to cram it all in 90 minutes, you have to pick and choose what you're going to do and leave the rest of it on the cutting room floor for future projects. And there's got to be future projects in this. There's written all over about all the different directions they're going to go in this for sure.
Now they also opened up themselves to another thing too, because that world between worlds, as you put it, with all those pipes. I guarantee you they're going to say one of those pipes leads to Hyrule, one of those pipes leads to the Lilat system, one of them leads to, Zebus,
Smash
and they're
Brothers
going to,
movie.
that's how we're going to have the Smash Brothers thing. One of them leads to Sonic, one of them leads to Detective Pikachu, and here we go.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I would have preferred more Yoshi, but I also understand why they didn't, because they leave you wanting for more.
Yeah, I mean, they even had like time to even show like all the toads like weren't very like fighting
Yep.
heavy and everything, and I did like even like the main toads, like the character development was really nice to see. Like, yes, he is like a lot. There at least is some that like would want to fight, and then I don't know, like that would have been nicer to see a little bit more of Yoshi. But
Mhm.
that did have me like have a callback at least to some of the other Easter eggs, is even having like, the toads saying like, "Oh, the princess is in another castle," like
Oh
that
yes,
one
that was
that
so
one
great.
quote that was definitely very epic to see them like kind of laugh and joke about that. But yeah,
That was awesome.
um,
That I forget about that one too, but I definitely cracked up during that one too. That was
but
that was great. And there was one in the antique store when he's like walking through there and he has the NES cartridge and he's like, "Oh, you have to blow on that one." It's brilliant. So
Yep.
brilliant.
So many
so
nods.
so I think it's pretty safe to say that we recommend the Super Mario Brothers movie. But any final thoughts from either of you before we move on to the rest of our episode? Barry, any final thoughts?
Go see it. Go see it and know that if you're a Mario fan or a game fan, you'll enjoy it. Yes, there are little things you can nitpick. It was a perfect no, but that shouldn't derail your entertainment and your enjoyment. And if you don't like it, you know what? That's okay too. We all have different opinions. And all I hope is that they take everything they learned in this. It rejuvenated Nintendo's desire to make more movies and make more media, thanks to the first Mario movie butchering that. And the sequel is bigger and better. And they say, hey, you know what? We're doing 2 hours now, or 2.5 hours, and we're going full stop. We're doing Mario Land 1, 2, World, Galaxy, 3D World, and Mario is missing all together. And at the end, you get to watch Mario teach you typing.
you forgot about Hotel Mario.
Oh, they won't acknowledge
Rope that
Hotel
into
Mario.
that in Luigi's Mansion.
You know what? It wouldn't, if they did a Hotel Mario joke in there, I would be thrilled. But they're not going to, because I don't want to acknowledge that a game exists.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did throw a joke after they acknowledged so many different things in this movie. It wouldn't surprise me if it was like a throwaway joke. They're like, if you're paying attention, you'll know, but if you don't,
Or
doesn't matter.
or they make a joke about, could you imagine Mario owning a hotel? What would you,
Right?
hotel? What would you call it? Hotel Mario? That's stupid, and
Yeah.
move on or
Just
something
move
like
on.
that.
Yeah. Nice. Any final thoughts, Greg?
I pretty much got like I pretty much agree with Barry. I mean, I've been telling like all of my family like how great the movie it is, and you can definitely tell by like even like the Rotten Tomato score that you read off like pretty much like a hour ago. But um, obviously, I think it was more made for like the fans and everybody that really appreciates it. And I think that's why such a contrast in the like critic score versus like the actual user score. So I would 100% recommend it. And as a lot of these things are, they're more just smaller nitpicks that aren't really worth like saying that like, don't go see the movie because of it. But if you're really like being familiar with a lot of the Mario stuff, whether it's even the music or a lot of his different games, definitely highly recommend to go check out the movie and go see. If you don't really quite understand all the references, I'm sure that the video you also mentioned will definitely explain some of those more in detail for people that don't follow it as much as we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Go see it, and if you want to dive into all the little details, highly recommend the New Rockstars videos to kind of dig into all those Easter eggs and all the breakdown and everything. Um, they did a really good job of all that. I don't know how she did it, but she did a great job of breaking it all down over there. So, well, let's move into quickly. Another movie came out over this last couple weeks, and that was the Tetris movie. And so, if you have not checked it out, it's over on Apple TV. Apple TV Plus has it. It was directed by John S. Baird. Writer was Noah Pink, and starred Taron Egerton, Mara Huff, and Miles Barrow, and had several different nods to the actual story. Of course, it was dramatized, made to be this really big drama-filled story, which it kind of was if you know what actually happened in gaining the rights to Tetris and being able to sell it. It definitely is there. Again, if you've not checked out, the Gaming Historian has a great about hour-long documentary on the actual story that happened. He did it like several years ago. Really, really good and well done. But this, yeah, it turns some different things and makes them more dramatized for a movie and all that stuff. But it's still like it was kind of crazy times. It was the turning corner of when the USSR was starting to become not a thing so much, but like the Soviet Union was still very much a thing, and they're almost at the edge of that, and how Tetris kind of helps maybe start that whole thing, but the disagreements between Mirrorsoft and Bulletproof Gaming and Nintendo comes in the whole story, and all these different things and the rights and all that stuff. I was entertained. My wife watched it with me and felt that like she was like, I can't do this because the tension was so much for her. She's like, I was like, it's okay, we know how it ends. Um, but but yeah, it was still the tension was really high throughout the movie and everything. But I thought it was well done, well acted. I think they did a really good job. Yes, they took some liberties with the story and changed some moments that didn't exactly happen just like that. But overall, I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. Barry, Greg, did either of you guys get a chance to watch it yet?
I don't have Apple TV Plus, so I saw the trailer. It looks good. I want to watch it, but I did not see it.
Yeah, I also don't have Apple TV Plus, but I might look into trying to get one of those trial things just so I could actually watch it. But yeah, it does sound pretty intriguing, and I did see like the gaming historians like history of Tetris, so that does sound very interesting the way they might have adapted it. So
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is that Apple gives away free trials like it's candy sometimes. So um,
I'm
just
hoping there's a Blu-ray because
just
I
check it
want to
out,
own
and
it.
yeah, it'd be cool if it is. And yeah, it's not. I mean, just go into it knowing it's not exactly how it's happened. I think that's the biggest negatives that I've heard people saying. Where like, oh, they took too many liberties with it. And like, it was based on a true story. It's not the actual retelling of the story. If you want that, there are documentaries out there that do a fantastic job. This is based on the true story, and it's pretty darn close, like to what actually happened. So
I just, think of how different it would be if Nintendo actually wound up owning it. Like, I mean, obviously they own certain things like the music and stuff, but if Nintendo wound up owning Tetris as an IP,
oh, in the end, yeah, yeah.
yeah, in the end,
They got a it's really interesting too because they play out the whole thing and how Game Boy forced a lot of stuff and getting the handheld rights versus like a lot of that played into how they defined what a PC game was versus a console game, and all that plays into the rights for Tetris versus the handheld rights to like how all that works as well. That was the Tetris story is all when like them and Atari really hit it hard over the console rights over Tetris as well, and that was a big thing that they I don't know if they I think it took a long time for them to finally recover from that. There's a lot of history that's woven into this simple puzzle game that was developed behind the Iron Curtain by some guy that just really liked programming and unfortunately went years and years and years from not and didn't financially benefit from this amazing game that he created. But finally he did, and now he's co-owner of the Tetris company, and the rest is history. But for a long time, like this game that took the world by storm, like he saw no financial benefits from it whatsoever.
Welcome to communism.
Yep. So I'm just glad it has ended well for him now, and the world, like he's been able to see how much the world just loves his game and likes him. He's a very likable dude. Like you can see interviews and everything with him now, and he's a really likable guy, and was brilliant in creating it. So yeah, if you want to see the actual story, Gaming Historian does a fantastic documentary over it. But if you want to see it dramatized and taking a little bit of liberty with the story, check out Tetris over on Apple TV Plus. So that's the end of our what is normally a gaming focused news section and discussion section, but we've focused a lot on movies tonight, which is awesome. It's great to know that video game movies aren't all crap like they were for a long time. Say that.
I do want to say at least like the adaptions are starting to get better because we all know the reverse has never really been the true. Like when they do the movie adaptions into games, those don't usually turn out the best. I mean, there are obviously exceptions, GoldenEye and stuff like that, but for the most part, they get like a bad rap because they, I don't know if it's like timing or whatever, if they try to stay too true to the original movie and it might be harder to like translate into a game, but finally seeing like a game like done right as a movie definitely was a step like in the right direction. I know a lot of the earlier video game adaptations haven't been the best. Like obviously the original Mario Brothers movie and some other ones obviously are out there as well. But hopefully this is a good turning point where we'll see like the reverse starting to actually happen and where they can make better adaptations.
You know, I'm honestly surprised that Nintendo has not pulled a Capcom here. And made a Mario Brothers the movie, the game, because Capcom, I
Oh,
think, is the only company that actually made a movie based on a game and then made a game based on the movie based on the game, with Street Fighter the movie, the game, which is a fighting game based on the Street Fighter movie, which is obviously based on the Street Fighter game.
yeah.
And it's very meta and it's very terrible. But I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't done the Super Mario Brothers movie, the game, as a
Yeah.
tie-in or something.
It's like the High School Musical, the musical, the movie, the musical TV show,
Yeah,
whatever thing they
something.
got going on. Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
was
I
kind of
wish too.
interesting because back when they announced the movie, I was almost expecting them to be like, "Oh, here's like a new Super Mario Brothers game," like as like a
Mhm.
like that was like
Yeah,
their
it's a
lead
missed
into
opportunity.
like to actually have like a game that was going to be launching around the same time as the movie. It may not necessarily like a full like tie-in, like a game about the movie or whatever, but like
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they didn't have like a launching Mario title alongside like a mainline Mario title with it.
They
The
asked
movie.
Miyamoto about it, and he was said, "Please stay tuned for
Yeah.
future updates and any information on the Mario game." I think there will be one this year. I
Yeah.
think it'd be really
Yeah.
stupid for them not to have
Oh yeah,
something.
capitalize on that for sure. Mario Mania is going to be up again and capitalize on that. But
So,
at the
so are
same
you
time,
wearing red or are you wearing white, or like what are you wearing to the blue for the eyes? Like where are you positioned so we can create
Mario,
the giant
Mario,
Mario across the planet?
Mario. Yeah. Yeah, I think now thinking back though, I'm sure this is one of the reasons the movie is probably one of the reasons why we haven't seen a new Mario movie recently. I bet Nintendo was spending a ton of time making sure this movie was good. Like they did not want a repeat of the last time. So,
Oh yeah.
well, let's jump into some news headlines and cover some quick stories. I think we got about 5 of them that we want to make sure that you guys know about. And kicking it off is Greg talking about some Zelda news.
Yeah, so it wasn't something that I didn't really get from the Mario movie was like any references to Zelda, especially like in the NES scene in the beginning. But there was a little known character named Alnuma had a little briefing for Tears of the Kingdom that will be coming out in actually just around a month's time of this recording, and it pretty much just showed off some of Link's new abilities, like his Ascend ability, his ability to kind of construct all sorts of different weapons and everything, and other types of vehicles and stuff with like some like forging abilities, like in merging. And so if you missed out on that, the video is still live on YouTube to check out some more details in the game, and it will be out before we know it here on May 12th.
And speaking of checking out awesome videos, in just 2 days at 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, which is 4/12, we have the latest Premium Edition Direct, our Spring Direct. We're going to have a lot of announcements, a lot of fun stuff that we're going to be able to talk about that I would love to tell you right now, but I just can't. But we've been working very hard behind the scenes, doing some last minute, changes just to make it as perfect as possible. So you'll have to stay tuned, and afterwards you'll be able to check out all the live information, the Q&A we're going to have over on our Twitch, at Premium's Twitch. So please join there, and hopefully you have a good time and enjoy what you see.
Cool. And after our last podcast, we had a good conversation on the last podcast about E3, and unfortunately, on March 30th, the ESA and ReedPop, who was in charge of putting on E3 this year, made an announcement that they have decided to cancel E3 2023. They say expect more in the future. So they have not officially canceled E3 as an overall thing moving forward, but the 2023 experience has been canceled, basically saying that a lot of game companies wouldn't be able to have all their stuff ready in time. But I think we kind of know it was because everybody was dropping like flies anyway, and there was going to be no one there. So might as well cancel the event.
Speaking of things that were canceled, well, sort of canceled, there's been some issues going on Xbox consoles where you can actually use some emulators, and apparently you were able to play a lot of the old Nintendo games. And then a Q&A representative from Microsoft indicated that it was in fact due to legal issues with Nintendo as to why they had to remove some of like the emulation stuff from their Xbox store. But I think actually a few days after there was an update, and Microsoft like clarified that it's like actually all this stuff regarding Nintendo is actually not accurate. And it's just been pretty much where our store policy is we should be allowing like emulation done like on our platform, and it's not just particular to Nintendo in general. So it's obviously kind of stinks for people that don't have like the older systems and have to resort to that kind of stuff, but obviously it's not really necessarily legal for most people to be able to play those kinds of games on current hardware.
Well, and speaking of the different companies, let's talk a little bit about the console wars. It's a term that many people have heard before. It originated in marketing way back in the television versus Atari. And now it seems that it's not just for the fanboys to go out against each other, but instead the companies. Sony apparently has been throwing shade at both Nintendo and Microsoft in various patents for over a decade. One example says, for example, an end user device may be a personal computer, a home entertainment system such as the Sony PlayStation 2, Sony PlayStation 3, Sony PlayStation 4, a portable gaming device such as the Soy PSP, because apparently they couldn't spell their own name right, or Sony Vita, or a home entertainment system of a different, a bit inferior manufacturer. Now, while not just naming Nintendo or Microsoft, it is clear who they're talking about. And what's even more interesting is in the patents, there's a line that usually reads, please use the PDF version for legal matters. And if you use the PDF version, that particular part of it is omitted. So it's really weird. Sony has yet to comment about this discovery, but it's just sort of like telling that all this time, at least for the past decade or so, Sony behind the scenes has been taking little jabs at their competitors. I guess someone has an inferior complex or something, Someone thinks they're hot shit.
Oh, just when we thought the console wars were over. At least Microsoft and Nintendo are getting along.
Then they are. And they're probably getting along a lot better now after this.
Yeah. They're like, hey, did you see what Sony's been doing? Yeah, let's team up more.
Nintendo Switch Online now available on Xbox Live.
Yeah, I don't think so. No, we might get the Microsoft Game
Yeah,
Pass with
Microsoft Live. Yeah,
it.
There you go.
Yeah.
we get the Game Pass. They get the Nintendo Switch Online.
That's right. Well, we're going kind of long since we talked a lot about the new the Super Mario Brothers movie quite a bit earlier. But just a real quick, wanted to see if you guys had any further thoughts about any of these stories, Barry.
Yeah, so we talked at length last time about E3. I really was hoping that they would evolve this year, or maybe they'll evolve next year. I was always sad to see it get canceled. It didn't surprise me because we talked about Ubisoft last time, and like the day later, Sega backed out, and then they were like, "All right, we're done." So I was like, "All right, they're really dropping like flies." So that saddens me. Tears of the Kingdom looks exciting. I love what they showed off. I'm already sold on it, but I did watch it. They also showed off the Switch, and the Switch looks great. And of course, I had to pre-order it. And also the carrying case and the Pro controller. I had to get it all because I have a sickness and an issue, and someone help me, please. Um, then the Xbox thing that doesn't surprise me. And this may be like, hey, we want to work with Nintendo more. This is why we're doing it. The Sony thing also honestly doesn't surprise me either because Sony is arrogant as all get out. And while I love Sony products and I do love PlayStation, obviously nowhere near as much as Nintendo. I don't like Sony. They're my least favorite of the three, just because of their arrogance, and they've had that for a while. And of course, as for the Premium Direct, considering I wrote it and been working for the past several weeks on doing my best to make it as perfect as possible, very high hopes for it, and hope you enjoy it. But because it's been consuming my life for quite a while.
Nice, Greg.
Yeah, I mean the s- Tears of the Kingdom stuff was already, as Barry said, and even I said in the previous podcast, I've already been sold. I've pre-ordered the digital version of it, and to much my own surprise, I really did like the Switch, like the Zelda Switch, and did pre-order one for myself. So, I they had no more Pro controllers left for pre-order, unfortunately, but I definitely will be pretty happy to actually have a Zelda system. So I haven't had any of the previous Zelda systems. Will be my first one, so it'll be really great to finally have one. I've really liked like the Wii U version that they did, and also the 3DS and stuff. It just finally the stars aligned for me to get a Zelda themed system. Yeah, in terms of E3, I mean, unfortunately, I think we all saw the writing on the wall, and I was just trying to be more optimistic than thinking it was going to be true. But I mean, pretty much, I was kind of figuring with like pretty much all the main three players, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, not doing anything, it was pretty much inevitable before this was going to happen, and it probably just took the other major players to kind of step out, like Ubisoft and Sega and stuff, before like, all right, well, there's no real point to be charging people to enter this facility, and we don't have any big companies here that actually here to show stuff. So hopefully they can figure stuff out in the future to allow this to go forward. Definitely miss like that experience that me and Steve got to have back in 2014 that we did. In terms of the Microsoft stuff, it was nice to see that like Microsoft is kind of trying to like honor like other trademarks and stuff, and to remove like emulation stuff. I know Nintendo always gets like hacked and gets pirate, like people can pirate the software in the stores and all that stuff. So it's great to see that the Microsoft also kind of wants to fall in line with that and not just strictly allow it to happen. And yeah, with the Sony stuff, it's I guess they're still kind of bitter ever since Nintendo broke off their contract back in the early 90s, so that created the PlayStation to begin with. So, oh well, I mean, I guess they're still not over that from all those years ago. And yeah, just stay tuned to Premium, and it'll be exciting to see some of the new announcements coming out on Wednesday.
Nice. Yep, I think Tears of the Kingdom. I had kind of forgotten that it was coming out in May, and I was like, oh well, there goes my May. and possibly by June as well. Uh, so that's gonna be great. I kind of, for my life situation, it'd be great if it got delayed. I don't want it to happen for you guys and everybody else,
No,
but like I'm not ready to dive into a 100-hour
no.
game right now. But uh,
That's my last hurrah. I need that. You have no
that's
idea.
no, it's also gives me it would give me another prediction correct for this year as well. No, I don't want it to happen for sure, but yeah, of course, always excited about what premium shows off as well. The other things are just silly. They're funny. It's funny that Sony still wants to pick fights and everything this far into how gaming is nowadays, and it's just silly that stuff still happens. So I guess it's been running for 10 years. Maybe they're going to change it when they write new patents, but who knows? But it's also funny that it's taken this long for people to notice it. So I don't know. But anyway, let's before we jump into what's coming out over the next couple weeks and what games we're going to be playing, we just want to remind you, if you are new to the podcast, we would love for you to join us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at NintendoFuse. That's where we're most active, and we would love to have your follow over there. And if you have not done so yet, please join us on our Discord. We love interacting with you guys, talking games, talking life, and so much more in our growing Discord community. The link is on the screen, but also in the show notes, and you can find also the link to our social media there as well as some affiliate links for some ripped apparel and some other things will also be on our show notes. And we'd love for you to check all of those things out and join us if you've enjoyed the podcast so far and you're like, man, I want to hang out more with these people and the other people in their community. The Discord is a great place to do that. You can also send in questions if you have things that you want us to talk about in future episodes. You can send us a link or an email to podcast@nintendofuse.com. And like I said, all those links and everything to our social media and our Discord are going to be in the show notes, the YouTube description as well. But let's turn our attention to the next couple weeks. Our next podcast will be recorded live on April 24th, 2023. And until then, we've got some games coming out. So if you're watching the video version, I'm going to be scrolling those on the screen thanks to Metacritic's website. I'll go over some of the big ones that I think are notable, and then we will also talk about the games that we're going to be hoping to play over the next couple weeks. So, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. I didn't realize it was going to be so hard to say. That comes out on April 14th. Minecraft Legends comes out on April 18th. Disney Speedstorm comes out also on April 18th. Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Remasters come out on April 19th. DNF Duel comes out on April 20th, and Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp finally comes out on April 21st. So, what are you going to be hoping to play over the next couple weeks, Barry?
Hopefully finish Ryza 2 and work through Ryza 3. If I can finish that in time, Process of Elimination looks really good. That's coming out this I think in this week I think, and that's maybe even tomorrow. That's like a Danganronpa style game, so I might jump into that. It really depends on how long the Ryza games take. I might focus a little bit on the Kirby extra mode in between if I need a little break from one RPG to another. I think it depends on how Ryza 2 ends, if I want to jump right into the finale or not. But yeah, that's my main focus other than my usual stuff.
Nice. Greg, how about you?
Well, playing wise, I'll probably be continuing on with some of the games. I still have like Fire Emblem Engage and also more Oregon Trail and stuff to play. And as Barry will never let me forget, Xenoblade 3. So there's still definitely quite a list of games I already have that I need to be playing and be adding more time into. I mean, I probably still will try to pick up like the Final Fantasy 4 and 6. Those were two of my only Final Fantasy games I've played because they were on the Super Nintendo, and I absolutely love them to bits because they play a lot like the Dragon Quest series that was a lot more on the Nintendo systems up until 7. So yeah, I was probably be picking up at least those two, and then also probably Advance Wars just because it's kind of similar to Fire Emblem but more modern like stuff with like tanks and stuff. So I've never got to play the Advanced Wars series and I've only heard good things about it, and it will just be added into my backlog as well.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I think I don't think I'm planning on getting any new games. Like I said, I've been redeeming a lot of games that I've been getting from review copies and things like that. So I'll be making my way through those sort of things and trying to get through those. I also realized a game that I feel like I've heard a lot from. I think both of you, Demon's Tier. Um,
Oh yeah.
Apparently, I have a copy of that and didn't realize it. So I'm gonna try to see if I can play some Demon's Tier pretty soon, and then hopefully see if I can fit in some time to finally finish off Life is Strange 2. I haven't had large chunks of playtime recently. I've had enough time to play around with a bunch of shorter games and things like that. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get it in there and finish out Life is Strange 2. But yeah, no new games for me. Working on the backlog as well. Greg, how have you been jumping into the original Life is Strange anymore recently?
I need to load that back up. That's been hit part of the backlog. I still really wanted to continue it. That one I really probably should be putting more focus into because it's shorter than some of these longer RPG games that are a lot easily like more dozens of hours into it. Um, on a side note, I was able to talk my girlfriend into getting to True Colors, so I definitely kind of want to like appreciate the actual Life is Strange like 1 and 2 and have a better picture of it. Like just to have is like those games are just so. I was so intrigued to get them, and then they're finally here, and then they're just been kind of sitting. So I really want to hope to jump into those coming up soon.
Nice, nice. Well, that moves us to the end of the episode in terms of all we're going to be talking about. Barry, anything other than like really probably the premium direct is like the biggest thing in both of you guys' lives, probably coming up in the next couple weeks. Anything beyond that?
Yeah, that's the big thing. So we've got Kickstarter launching tomorrow for Poglings, which we previously announced we were working with. So definitely check that out. We got the direct on Wednesday. I'm sure I'll be reaching out here to some friends. So who knows how many podcasts I'll be on. I know I am recording one with Games My Mom Found already. That's happening on Thursday. That's completely unrelated though. And yeah, just you know, meetings, doctor visits for pregnancy, which is always fun, and we're starting socialization training with puppies. So life is very busy and all culminating in July. So we're trying to get as much done. We're working on the nursery now, so like things are starting to get real, and it's
Yeah,
very weird.
that's crazy. July's going to be here before we know it.
I know. I know.
Wow.
I'll be doing an episode from the hospital, Yeah.
It's probably a good thing for you that we don't have E3 to cover because you're going to be on
Oh,
full like the home stretch at that moment.
no, if we had E3 to cover, she'd be like, "Oh my God, I need something. I'm in labor pain." Shh, Nintendo Direct. No, no, Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Tell that baby to
Watch,
stay in there
I
until the
know.
Nintendo Direct is over.
Watch him come early right in the middle of when
Yeah.
E3.
No, you stay in there. Get a
Don't make
cork.
me.
Nice.
Don't make me
Greg?
push my hand in there. Like, keep it in there.
Greg, anything going on in your neck of the woods over the next couple weeks?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know we had talked about my cat no longer being around anymore. I've been getting pushed from different directions to like, oh, you should probably look into getting a dog and adding more around that side. So I don't know if that will be in at least the coming time. I mean, I definitely need a little bit of time just to like have everything settle down, and it's been nice to have my girlfriend's dogs here to just have extra company and stuff while she's out of town. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if like something like that's going to be coming down the road and any other life changes like with that like upcoming, but it's all hopefully going to be a lot more going up from here and everything from there. So we did get to go to Comic-Con, and that was a lot of fun, and like the C2E2, which is a big thing of Chicago. I think I probably talked about that last time, but just to reiterate, it was just still pretty fun to kind of do that kind of thing, and be nice to. I was trying to tell people about like the Midwest Classic because it was a lot of fun last year, and I just didn't realize that they moved it up quite a bit this year. So, hoping to find some other conventions and stuff to go to, or see about going to visiting some other game stores and trying to help push premium around. I did see that there was like a new cafe that opened up near me that does like arcades and drinks and stuff. So that should be pretty fun to go check out, and hopefully before the next podcast, at least for that part of it. But
Cool.
yeah, things been pretty busy, and summer's kind of coming up very quickly, and it'll be nice to enjoy the weather again outside.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing big in my life before the next podcast, but right after the next podcast, I'll be starting some travel, and I'll be doing a lot more traveling over the next few months and everything. So yeah, looking forward to that. But I think the next couple weeks is going to be basically normal. So hopefully to get some more time gaming and things like that. Also enjoying the fact that finally I think winter is officially over in Colorado. We had another bout of it last week, but
Oh
I
boy.
think it's supposed to be in the 80s this week. So yeah, hopefully winter is done. I'd still love to get out and go skiing though, because apparently there are hundreds and hundreds of inches of snow in the mountains that would make for awesome spring skiing. But I've not gotten up there yet, so maybe I'll be able to this year. We'll see. But at this rate, the snow will be there through July. So I think a couple of the places said they're going to be open and through June. You can still go skiing through June, which is just crazy.
Wow.
Think about, yeah. So, well, thank you guys so much for being here for episode 269. We're going to be back on April 24th for our next live recording. We'd love for you to join us. That's April 24th, 2023. But if you haven't seen it yet, go check out the new Super Mario Brothers movie. Not the new Super Mario Brothers movie, the
That's
Super
the
Mario
sequel.
Brothers movie. That's
Don't
the
give him
sequel.
ideas.
Yeah, that's the sequel. That's what they're going to do sometime. maybe a partnership with Illumination will talk them out of silly naming things. But yeah, go check out the Super Mario Brothers movie. Check out Tetris if you have Apple TV Plus. Check out some of the games we've been talking about, and we will see you next time on the NintendoFuse Podcast. But until then, happy gaming.
Have a good one.
See you next time.